Hi guys, I'm just going to make this video really quickly. I've seen a lot of other people put their testimonies out there, why they left the witnesses, how they found God, so I thought I'd put out my personal experience as well. If I have children jumping on me or a cat jumps on me, it's because I'm not doing this from a script. There's been no editing, no nothing. So please bear with me. Right, so brought up Church of England, went to a Roman Catholic school, was in the church choir from the age of 9 till the age of 14. We moved house, so I couldn't go to that church anymore. Went to the next church, didn't really get on with the vicar. Went to a Roman Catholic school. Didn't like what I was being taught at the Roman Catholic school, so I ended up actually going to Wicca, like paganism. For a while, I did agree with what they said, but at the same time, I was I was still searching for God. So I went back to the church. I then found an evangelist church to join, who were quite scary and over the top, if I'm perfectly honest. I've got nothing against evangelists, but from my point of view, I wasn't used to that sort of intensity, so that really freaked me out, so I ended up leaving. By this point I'd left school, went back to the church again, and then when I eventually got in with the witnesses, it was 5 years ago, so I was 24. I was pregnant with Jake, who's my oldest, who you can probably hear in the background. He's 5 and has autism. So yeah, I had him. He was about 4 weeks old when I started attending the meetings. What had happened actually, my husband's gran was a Jehovah's Witness. Exactly. And that one's Alice, by the way. She's just turned 1. So, yeah, she was a Jehovah's Witness, and I went in one day having a bit whinge to her because the church I was going to at the time wouldn't teach the Bible. And even from a young age, I've always said, you cannot proclaim to be a follower of Christ if you do not know what the Holy Book says. I would say the same thing about Islam, with the Quran, Jewish, with the Torah, etc, etc. So that really annoyed me, especially the Book of Revelation, because I've always loved the imagery in it. So I goes to see Brenda, Richard's gran, who was a lovely woman. She really was. This is Alice, by the way. Say hiya. Hello. Good boy. Good girl. I nearly called you a boy there. So yeah, I went to see her, and she says, I can teach you the Bible. And I says, no, you can't. You know, you're a religious cult, and this, that, and the other. How right I was, but I'll come on to that later. And like I say, it was 5 years ago. The more I started studying the Bible with her, I didn't know the Bible, so the things she was telling me was actually, you know, she was going from her Bible, so it all made sense, and I thought, yes, I found the truth, this is amazing. How can I get out and tell people about this? So I became an unbaptized publisher after 6 months, and we lost Brenda at that point. Unfortunately, she passed away with pancreatic cancer. Also, after that, I started attending the Gateshead congregation, which, lovely set of people. But when I got baptised in 2014. That's when I started seeing a difference. When you first start going along, it's like you get love bombed. Completely and utterly love bombed. Now, considering I've been, you know, I'm quite a goth. You know, I've got the tattoos. I used to have the, you know, the black hair, the black lipstick, the bright white face. It used to be quite strange. So if I ever went into a church, you would normally get told... Sorry, excuse me. I'm just giving Alice something to play with. So yeah, whenever I went into a church, for instance, I went to a church in Newcastle City Centre. I was on my knees saying a prayer because my dad was dying of cancer, and I got a tap on the shoulder, and it was this lovely woman. Excuse me, we don't like your sort here. Could you please leave? Well, you can imagine what I was like. I just turned around and said to the woman, is that what Jesus would have said? And I stormed out the church. So you can imagine I'm not used to being accepted places. So when the witnesses were accepted, I thought, wow, this is great, you know. Until I got baptised. And then as soon as you get baptised, everything changes. If your face fits, and if you fit into a little clique in that organisation, that's amazing. You've got all your friends, you can get your family in there, you can go out pioneering. It's the best thing in the world. But if you're like me and you're outside, you've got a husband who doesn't believe or isn't in the truth, as they call it. If you've got a husband who isn't a witness and you're sort of in there by yourself, it becomes very difficult. Especially when it comes to things like, I noticed a lot of little cracks appear, and I'd seen a few, I mean, I know that the elders said that they would, you know, they weren't perfect in things, but you still sort of have that impression of them. So when they say something that doesn't sound very Christian-like, shall we say, that's when the cogs start turning. And they're always, one of their biggest draws for people is the fact that they're very Christian, you know, they take care of their people. So I noticed a difference with that as well. If you are in with the cliques, amazing, absolutely amazing. You've got, let's have a think, an example I'd like to give. It was a brother and sister, Tony and Edna, lovely couple. Edna got too poorly to come to the meetings because I'm not sure if anyone's aware of the Jehovah's Witness organisation now, but you have a 2-hour meeting on a Sunday, which is a talk, and then a study of the Bible with aid of the Watchtower. Basically, you read a Watchtower and you read 1 or 2 scriptures, but it's mainly just studying a Watchtower. And then on a Thursday, you get a Christian life and ministry meeting, which means you get trained like you would a business. You get trained on what to say, how to talk to people, how to approach people, that sort of thing. So, and that's a good, you're talking maybe an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. So Edna got too poorly to go to the meetings. So, exactly. So poor Tony was left looking after her at home. So he couldn't get the meetings either. The longer you're away, the more they forget about you. And I actually went to Edna's funeral. Poor woman, she passed away. And when I went, I heard everybody saying, oh, what a lovely woman, what a lovely example, and the truth. And I started looking around going, you hypocrites, you absolute hypocrites. You were not there for her when she was alive. There was maybe 1 or 2 at the most were there when she was alive. So how can you now turn around and give Tony all of this sympathy when you weren't even there to help him? In contrast, there was another couple, similar situation. Carol was poorly and Barry had to look after her. But this time they decided, oh, let's make a rota and we shall have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, or a brother and a sister to go and sit with her so Barry can still come to the meetings. Now, that's a lovely thing to do, but why didn't they do it when Edna was poorly? once again, it's a case of if your face fits. Obviously, my face didn't fit, so I was never the penguin in the inside of the huddle. I was always one of the gazelles that were on the outside that were going to get picked off first. And I don't know how many of you have actually had experience of autism, but my little lad, he got diagnosed when he was, well, back in June. He was only 4.5, but we'd been asking them to do it since he was 2, so 2.5 years. And we knew there was something up. And because of him having his meltdowns and him with his sensory issues, he couldn't cope with the meetings. So it was a twice-a-week thing. You and your family had to be at every meeting. If you weren't, you were not going to be saved. They say they preach salvation by faith, but then they bring out, but faith without works is dead. So then you have to do the works in order to get salvation. So I was constantly worrying because I had Jake, who wouldn't come to the meetings. I had Alice, who was a newborn, and then she was starting to, you know, as she got older, she was starting to make more noise. So it come to the point where every week I was getting text messages. They were making you guilty for not being able to make it to the meetings. Because, you know, the meetings are where you're going to get your life from, and it was very bad. And then the pressure to go out on the ministry as well. I don't know how many of you know this, but you've actually got to record how much time you are out in the ministry. If you talk to someone out in the street, you have to write that down. And sometimes it becomes like a race. And like when I was pregnant with Alice, I was on crutches from 12 weeks pregnant. So I couldn't get out on the door-to-door ministry. And I was looked down at because of that. They say, oh, well, you know, you just need to do an hour and you'll still be classed as a regular publisher. But people still look down at you. And it wasn't as if anyone was willing to actually help us to get around to do any calls or to get any more time in. So I found myself feeling worse and isolated. When I had Alice, I actually had severe postnatal depression. So when I got to postnatal depression, I went to the elders, as you did. You have any problems, you go straight to the elders. So I went to the elders and they said, oh no, we don't want you going to any CBT therapy or anything like that, because they won't understand. They won't understand. You are in the truth. They are in the world. You don't understand. So yeah, I joined a postnatal depression group. They were not happy that I had joined a postnatal depression group because these were worldly people. These were not Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, who did that leave me to go to? There was no one that I could actually talk to. So it was the same with homeschooling. I took Jake out of school because they weren't going to give him the support he needed. And I decided to start homeschool. I started to homeschool. And when I started to homeschool, there was a network of witnesses. Yeah, sure, we'll be good with you and stuff like that. And it just became, once again, if your face fitted. Because once I'd been to 1 or 2 of the meetups, they started becoming a bit like the Facebook police. Everything you put on Facebook was scrutinised. I actually got kicked out of the home ed group for saying the words, my sister is in Norway on her honeymoon. I hope she has a fantastic time. Oh, and today she'll be celebrating her birthday. I didn't say happy birthday. I didn't say, ooh, you know, ooh, we're going to have a fantastic birthday celebration for her. I mentioned the word birthday. As soon as I mentioned the word birthday, I had not one person ask me to explain myself. I got kicked out of the group. And it was a friend of mine who got in touch and says, has anyone been in touch with you from the Home Ed group? I said, no. And she went, well, they've kicked you out because of this. I says, you know, I would have took the post off if it had have meant that you were going to do this. So I started seeing, like I say, cracks in the organisation. And then I remember reading Watchtower, where it said, no matter how impractical the advice from the governing body may be, you must remember that this is from the organisation, God's organisation on earth. You must obey without question. And looking back, I'm starting to think, woo, Jonestown, you know, don't drink any Kool-Aid. So it got a bit intense, you know. They were starting to say, look, you're not allowed to look at any of our, you're not allowed to look at anything apart from our website. You cannot look at other books. You have to just read our books. If you have a problem, there's a Watchtower library. We've done all the research for you, so you don't have to. Well, I started getting questions about the Trinity. A massive shout out to my friend Danielle Barras, because she was an ex-witness. I met her in Slimming World, so I had a little bit of talk with her. And I started seeing, well, what happened to you? You know, I started seeing problems. And she explained how she'd been shunned. And so I says, well, how do you get around the Trinity then? If you go to a church, how do you get around the Trinity? And the Trinity doctrine was going to be the thing that made or break me in the truth. And she explained that she found that she didn't feel comfortable with the witnesses when they were talking about the Trinity, and they started actually taking the mickey out of God, saying, oh, well, you knew, Jehovah's talking to himself in this, how stupid. And she thought, how disrespectful to talk about God in that way. So she went home and done some research. And the way that she found it was she was talking about an atom and this little thing, particle thing that has like a nucleus. It's got all different parts. They've all got different functions, but it all makes one big thing. And she said it was the same with an egg. She thought of an egg, and she thought of the shell, and she thought of the white bit, or the clear bit before it's cooked, and then she thought of the yolk. All different parts, but they still make a big picture. So I thought, whoa, there could be something to this. So I started digging deep. And then anyway, like I say, I got thingied out of the group. And I thought, right, obviously I'm never going to fit in here. I'm going to put in my letter of disassociation. So I've written my letter out. My husband found out, told someone, because she'd asked why I'd blocked them. So he told them. That night, I had 2 elders on my doorstep. It was the first time, apart from they wanted me to come back to meetings, and I asked for help because I'd had, like I say, severe postnatal depression to the point where the crisis team have been called 3 or 4 times to stop me from trying to kill myself. It was bad. When those things happened, nothing was done. But the minute they find out I want to leave God's organisation, they're on my doorstep for an hour. I'm loaded with flu, so I couldn't get them away. So I says, look, I'll think about it. After an hour, I'd had enough. I didn't want to invite them in, so I says, look, I'll think about it. And then I thought, no, I can't be doing this anymore. So I started looking into the Trinity, and I found what actually made it for me, which kind of got us looking into it in the first place. If I can just find it, I've got the King James Bible here. Massive shout out to Jason Zelda, by the way, for helping me to find a good Bible translation. I'm just looking for the book of Colossians, because this scripture opened my eyes. And I've never been so woo in my life. So yeah, I've got me Bible. Oh, what a bad cough you've got. And I'm going to read from Colossians 1. Yeah. And it's verse 19. And it says, "For it pleased the Father that in him," that's Jesus, "should all fullness dwell." So it's saying that Jesus is God. Right, so I looked up from the New World Translation, which is the twisted translation that the witnesses use, and that came out as divine qualities. And I thought, no, it doesn't say that. It says fullness dwell in him. That doesn't say divine qualities. So I've got about 7 or 8 different translations of the Bible, so I pulled them all off the shelves and started looking through them all, and I saw that the witnesses were lying, and I saw Jesus was God. So I thought, oh dear. So once again, I was completely convinced by this point. Letter written out, posted off, with a thing in saying, please, no one from the organisation try to contact me, please destroy all of my records. It had been 2 days and I saw them in Gateshead, and they gave me the hackiest look you have ever seen in your life. But they had the audacity to say hi to my husband, who's never been a witness. And then the next day we were in Saviour Park, and my son, as I explained, 5, autism, saw some of them and ran up to say hi. They wouldn't speak to him. That broke my heart. I don't mind me being shunned. As a matter of fact, I think it's a very unchristian practice and I'm not very happy about it. But they shouldn't shun the children. That's not right. So there's a few people actually who have really helped me these past couple of months. Massive shout out to Danielle Barras, to Jean and Gordon, fantastic couple, to Pauline and to David Forbes. Love little Eddie, love you guys, these are amazing. David, you are one of the reasons that I found Christ, so thank you so much. You've got no idea what it means. I also want to give a massive thank you out to Meg Gilly. Now, Meg is the vicar down at St Chad's Church, at my mum's church, Church of England. It's an Anglican church, it's quite a high church, and it's, you know, as I've said, past experiences with me and vicars haven't been that great. So I went in and I started asking questions, and usually you get, oh, not again, no, don't do it. Meg was thrilled. She's still thrilled. So it was nice to find someone who was so down to earth. So we went there. Jake can't cope with the organ because it's too loud, but I feel comfortable there. We've also been up to Beaconloft Baptist Church, which I love. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. However, it's too far for us to travel on a Sunday because there's lack of public transport and we don't have a car. So I'm a bit gutted because it's too far away. But Meg down at St Chad's has been wonderful. So has Yvonne, who was the new vicar at St Helens in Low Fell. I've done an Advent course down there. We have had a Fun at 4 session, which is family church fun. It was amazing. They were so good with Jake. And since I'm celebrating my first Christmas in 5 years, yay! Hence the fantastic array of cards. Since we're actually celebrating for the first time in 5 years, you know, I wanted Jake to come to church. Now, like I've said, Jake doesn't cope very well with loud noises. Massive sensory issues. So I had a chat with Meg. Now, Meg is very, very radical. She's fab. She's the sort of vicar that wants everyone to enjoy church and to be part of a church. Basically what a Christian should be. Not a person that says, oh yeah, we'll love you, but only if you're like us. She's the sort of person that will go down to a pub and sit in a pub and maybe have 1 or 2 drinks, and she will talk to those people, because those people need God. Those people need Jesus. And she goes to bring Jesus to them. She's not knocking door to door. She's going to where she knows people need help. She goes to the food bank on a regular basis. She is such an inspiration. I love you to pieces, Meg. I really do. She lent me so many books. She actually lent me a book on the Trinity called The Divine Dance, and it was mind-blowing. And it was the best book I've read in ages. It was fantastic, apart from the Bible, of course. So yeah, I must admit I'm still struggling a little bit, because you know, you come out of a thing like the witnesses, and it's a bit strange, you know. You feel like you've got to go back to basics. You realise you've been lied to. They've used a Bible and they've twisted it and manipulated it out of context. I've got to give a massive shout out to Faith After Deception and the XJW and the Apostates on Facebook, because they've directed me to some fantastic YouTube channels. Once again, I've got to give shout outs for YouTube channels. I'm sorry if I miss everybody. Like I say, this is not pre-planned. So I've already mentioned Jason Zelda, fantastic guy, talks about what the witnesses don't know. Kim and Mikey, oh my, they are just the best. They are fantastic. I love their sense of humour. The Worldly Couple. Let's have a look. What else have we got? The False Apostate. There's so many. Witnesses for Christ. There are just so XJW testimonies. I'm also part of a couple of groups on Facebook, Praying Down the Watchtower. Now, prayer brings me to another thing. I now feel like I do not have to count time, and I feel like I'm enjoying ministry more. I am able to help people by listening to them, not by offering them a magazine and offering them a Bible study and writing it down. Oh, I've got so-and-so for a Bible study. I feel like I'm actually making a difference in people's lives now. Day after I disassociated myself from the witnesses, I was on a bus going to the Metro Centre. It's about a 20-minute bus ride. And there was a woman, and she looked heartbroken. So we started to talk, and she told me all these issues she'd been having. And I says, look, I don't know if you believe in God, but if you do, I will pray for you, love. And she looked so happy, and I did. I prayed with her on the bus, and then I prayed that night when I got home. And I do feel a call to sort of lay ministry, but that's obviously going to be a very, very long term, very, very in the distance. But for now, I actually feel called to do a sort of prayer ministry as an intercessor for people. Dare we call it a prayer warrior? Because I feel like by actually praying, I'm praying a lot more now than I was as a witness. Because as a witness, you've got to do your preparation for the watchtower, you've got to do your morning reading, you've got to do your family worship, you've got to do all your preparation for your midweek meeting, which is the Christian Life and Ministry meeting. So then you've got to go out on the ministry, you've got to prepare for the ministry. It left no time for anything else. You might get a quick prayer in here, quick prayer in there. That's it. And I always felt like that sort of left Jesus out of the equation a little bit. So, like I say, I've gone back to basics. My friend Danny suggested that I get onto the New Life course, which is on the web. It's on the web. It's besweb.com. And it is really good. I mean, it's questions and answers. You get to look in the Bible. You get to make your own opinions. It is fantastic. Loving it. And then also, if we can get enough interest down at St. Chad's, they're wanting to run the Pilgrim course, which is specifically for Church of England. It goes through quite a few things. I think there's like one on the Beatitudes, I think that's what they call them. You know, the Sermon on the Mount, like blessed are those who do this, blessed are those, and they do that, which is really good. They do a study on the Lord's Prayer, which I think is beautiful. And also, I really do think I'm being called to do some sort of ministry where people can be included and make churches accessible as possible. Like, come on, I mean, yes, I have tattoos everywhere. I mean, we're talking both arms, we're talking legs. Won't show me back, but my entire back is covered. So I feel like I am called to bring people to the church. And on Christmas Eve at 1 o'clock, we are having our very first safe and welcome autism-friendly carol service. It's only so Jake can come down to the church with Mummy. It's going to be fantastic. So we're working with the North East Autism Society for that. We're going to get everything sorted. It's going to be amazing. And I just find myself so excited and I feel free. I feel like I can choose which version of the Bible I read, what I want to do in the church. I didn't go to church on Sunday because there was a family fun day at Southwell Park. And guess what? I messaged Meg, told her I wasn't going to be there, but said I would be there, you know, to help out with things through the week. Oh, I hope the kids have a good time. I didn't get anyone pointing Hebrews 10, 24 and 25 down my throat. Witnesses will know what that verse says, for those of you who don't. It's basically a scripture that the witnesses use to make sure you are at every meeting. It basically says, do not forsake the meeting of yourselves together as some have the custom. So, yeah, I just wanted to get this out there. I know it's not been perfect, but I just wanted to get my testimony out there. I'm so happy I have found Jesus. I am free. It's the best feeling ever. I'm free. For the first time, I feel like I can read the scriptures. I don't need anyone to tell me what those scriptures say, because I've got the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit will show me what these scriptures say. I don't need someone writing books to tell me what I need to believe. And it's the best feeling in the world. So a massive, massive thank you to everyone. And I hope my video might help others. Probably not, but if I'm honest, it's been more therapy for me than anyone else, really. So thanks, guys.